All right, what's up guys? Welcome back to another video. Getting ready to get this big block sat down in here to test fit it in the Nova like I talked about it in the other video. If you haven't watched it, go back and check it out to see the progress on this engine bay. So probably gonna set you guys up here and get this engine tossed in here for a good test fit. Doing a little checkup on the truck here since I'm not the one working on it. Figured I'd film a little bit on it. Got the thing all blown apart and got the some of the portion cut out here. Most of it was missing anyway. I believe he got the other slip-on rocker someone tried fixing way back when hacked out, and then we got this thing braced. If you want to see how we did it, coming from that back side because it's nice and flat, and that'll keep it from wanting to flex this way and obviously move that way. But we are in the process of getting a steel bar to run from here over to the other one, but we're kind of running out of our square stock, and no one locally even carries any steel right now because it's so impossible to get and it's so expensive. So it's making it pretty difficult to do this kind of stuff. But anyway, I'll show you this other side here. So we got that all pulled out and took his measurements prior to removing the doors, which is nice. That way when you go and weld all your new stuff in, you can remeasure, make sure everything stayed put. We also completely aligned the doors before we took them off and got those all dialed in, made sure they fit right with where we were at. So those were all good. And now we're ready to get parts ordered and get that thing knocked out. And then as for the black Nova, got it covered up since he's been doing some grinding and stuff over there. Looking pretty nice. Pretty stoked on it. This doesn't have big block Nova / Camaro manifolds on it, so it's laying on the steering box right now. And let's see if we can show you. Yeah, so what we got to do is get these truck manifolds off, and we're going to order a set of the specific big block manifolds for this, and it should be good to go after that. And as for the Corvette, had to redo the engine bay due to overspray when we sprayed the car, but got it all finished up and it's flashing off. It turned out pretty good. Pretty stoked on it. And then once it fully cures, I'll probably drape something else over the whole engine bay just to prevent anything from getting on it. But that's pretty much an update of where we're at. And the other cars next door, we're still waiting on a couple things, but should be jumping back on those pretty soon as well. All right, guys, we're inside the black Nova. And this car was originally an automatic, and it was converted to a 4-speed years ago. And it was going to stay a 4-speed, but now they decided to go to an automatic. So, obviously, someone hacked a big hole in the floor. And pretty sure they used tin snips, so I've been going around and kind of cleaning it up a little bit, got it straightened back out, kind of hammered and dollied it. So what I got to do is I got a piece of construction paper on the bottom, and it's taped up to match the contour. And then I'm going to trace this, and then I now got my template. So then I can go over to a scrap piece of sheet metal and transfer it over and basically get this thing welded in and then smooth it all out, and we'll have a nice base to, you know, figure out what kind of shifter we're going to run and get it bolted in and do what we got to do when that time comes. But for now, we got to get rid of this hole and get it patched back up. Okay, checking back in here. I went ahead and, as I showed you, had that template laid up under there. So basically what I did with that template, took it over to some steel, made this guy, got a little radius in it to match the trans tunnel. And if you look at this trans tunnel here, kind of comes down this way and then goes up that way. Well, I made this piece a little bit bigger and it's a nice square compared to this. So I laid it up and traced this, and we want to make this fit my panel. So now I'll be able to go through and kind of sneak up on this line, both there, there, and there, and should be able to drop this sucker in and weld it in. So it sits down there pretty decent if I get it lined up there. So once that thing's welded in, it should match up pretty well. So we're going to go ahead and trim that like I just said, and then what we'll do is probably wheel the welder over here and start kind of basically just sneaking up on it and getting it to fit, tack it in a couple places, and get it put in place. Vintage Hot Rods, and we are getting back going on the Black Nova. So finally got those big block mounts, got them in. As you can see, there's a substantial difference. You can actually see the witness mark where the last one was. So it drops this driver's side down lower, and as well as brings the engine up to clear your steering box. This side over here, positioning, it's just about the same, but this mount is lower. So it takes that whole engine and kind of tweaks it just a tad and brings it over that way to the passenger side. So we're gonna go ahead, get this thing on the hoist, get the stand out from underneath it, and drop it down in there and see how it fits. All right, guys, we got her set down in there. The mounts are definitely correct. It made a big difference. But on the driver's side, these manifolds are just stock for a 1980 one-ton dually. So the steering box is in a slightly different location. So that dimple that is actually built into the manifold for the box is actually further back than it needs to be. So let me grab a light and show you guys real quick. Try to talk over this music so I don't get the old demonetized, but as you can see, it's still touching the manifold just barely, and that pocket is way further back. So that's probably for the trucks. And you can look at the pocket on the Camaro / Nova big block manifolds. That dimple is actually a different location, which will clear this box. But I got the bolt through the front half of the mount, which we were over an inch off last time. So that thing is right where it needs to be, super close. So looks like we just need the factory manifolds to make this work, but looks good sitting down in there, especially with the fresh bay. But now we play the waiting game on parts yet again, so that's part of it. But anyway, just thought we'd give you a little update on that, and that's where we're at on getting the big block in there. All right, guys, since the beginning of this video, the Nova, you obviously heard where we're at with that. So I'm back on the Nomad, which is cool. So get to do more stuff on this. So I'm over here kind of brainstorming on this driver's side. So I figured I'd get into this now. A lot of guys, it's a pretty controversial subject, especially amongst the older generation. This car is a really complete original car, and besides this lower quarter here, you know, overall for us in Indiana, this is a really solid car, and we are going to be leaving this car original paint. And then the areas that we fix, we're going to be getting a scan off this paint, getting it mixed up so I can do paint blending, make this car look original. Because basically the goal is to have a beautiful chassis, all painted up nice, engine painted up real nice, interior is going to be nice, but the outside's going to look all original. Obviously, you can see I'm very well preserving everything. Everything that's super rusty is either getting replaced or getting rust neutralizer put in it. And you know, this car is not going to be driven in salt and weather like they were when they were new. So this car isn't going anywhere anytime soon, but be a lot cooler. You know, this car tells a story. They're only original one time. And what a lot of people don't understand is this isn't a client's car. So we are doing this car to sell, to make a little bit of money. And you go doing the paint job on this with all the labor, material, and how much things have increased here the last couple years, we'd be upside down on this car. So this car is going to be a perfect, not only is it going to look cool, but it's going to be a perfect car someone can hop in, have a pretty interior, runs and drives great, bump the key, fire it up and drive it. You're not scared to get a rock chip, not scared if someone leans up against your car. So anyway, done talking. So kind of figure out here, I was brainstorming, and I think I can use a little bit more of this panel than what I thought. So I'm going to get kind of creative with how I come across this here. So as you can see, we got a little dent right here in the body line, which not a big deal, but we got some rot following the seam right here. So you obviously want to come above the rot. And there's a little bit starting right there. So I might as well come up just above that, which is just above the dent, which is perfect. And then come out and then probably stop somewhere right in here. But I'm thinking I can come across here, use this bottom portion that we need that's rotted out on this car, and then come up to the point before it starts doing this arch. So that way this area that's rotted out with this body line right here is actually the same pretty much from like right here up to here. So I can use a small portion of that. And then the other stuff I can pretty much patch in with leftover sheet steel we have next door. So I'm gonna start drawing on this thing, getting myself some cut lines. So I'm gonna brainstorm on how I wanna lay this out. So that'll probably take a minute. So I'll probably check back in with you guys after I got all this stuff marked up and how I'm gonna do it. But anyway, yeah, I'm gonna get to it. All right, guys. So as you just saw in that little clip that we fast forwarded through there, you can kind of see the back side of a panel we've already replaced, and unfortunately from sitting out, it's kind of rotted. So I don't know what we got going on up there, but yeah, I'm gonna wire wheel all this and we'll fetch that so it don't want to rot. But anyway, we got this all cut out. I saved some of the radius, believe it or not, mainly because I don't have enough of it here. So there's going to be a little bit of a gap that I got to try and fill. So we'll see what I come up with. All right, guys, new day, and left off showing you we were getting this driver's quarter cut out. So I'm not afraid to admit to any mistakes. So I may have cut this piece wrong, but I'm not fully sure that I did just yet. So I got a little bit more trimming, excuse me, a little bit more trimming to do on the bottom side. So I'm going to do that real quick and see if my panel fits. Because I just got in the zone, forgot that the other quarters are a little bit shorter at that lower section than the, I don't know how to explain it, but these are obviously for a regular 55 Chevy and not a Nomad lower area there. So I kind of just spaced it, but I'm gonna finish cutting out this lower rocker section there at the bottom of that quarter, get that done, see if this thing fits, and if it does, I'll pick back up here, and if it doesn't, we'll jump over onto this passenger side. So if we're working on that passenger side, I don't show any more on this, you'll kind of know why, and we'll move on for now until we get a new panel ordered, and luckily those are cheap. So, and I went ahead and I got all that surface rust off in there, and we went ahead and undercoated it all and turned out really clean. Okay guys, as you can tell, we jumped over here on the passenger side because I screwed the other side up. But anyway, so on this passenger side, this is all we got down here. The rest of the metal is in super good shape. You can see all the original paint underneath it. And then the only part is it's kind of roached out on the bottom side up until the new rocker. So what I did is, being that the radius over here on the wheel well isn't exactly the same as a 55, obviously I should say it's a lot different, but it's close enough that I was able to cut this out of the panel. Now I will be trimming a little bit off this end, but I got this. So what we're gonna basically do is trace this panel. As you can see, fits right up here real nice. And the radius is a little bit different right up in here. So what I'll do is trace this thing, cut out all the old metal, get this thing tacked in place. And then when it comes back to this radius, what I'll basically be doing is splitting this piece and mimicking the original radius with this piece. So there'll be a little bit of manipulation, and I'll take you guys along with me with the ride and show you how to do that, or at least the way I do it. So it ought to be pretty close and look pretty good when we're done. We'll get rid of that rot right there. So I'm gonna go ahead and hold this piece up there, scribe it, and get to cutting. So haven't been filming because I kind of ran into a little bit of issue on this side as well. So you saw me get the piece cut out of the patch panel as well as cut the old piece out in the time lapse. But I ground all my edges to get my welds, you know, obviously to weld it. And then as I started cleaning up next to it, the metal just disintegrated. I mean, it showed no signs. I mean, there was no holes, nothing from the back side, but it just must have been so thin right there that it just disintegrated. So I'll show you a couple of the pieces right here. as I started like wire wheeling and grinding, it just completely fell apart. You can see some at the top there too, because these were a one piece. So I had to go make another piece, and so far it's looking really good. No warpage. And then I'm gonna have to make, if you can see how the Nomad is quite radiused on the lower quarter compared to a normal 55 Chevy. And you can see it right there. So I'm gonna have to create that with this new panel, which isn't a big deal at all. And you can see a little pinhole right there I'm gonna have to fill, which, if we can get it to focus, which isn't a big deal. So I hate having two panels like that. Oh, come on though. Hate having two panels like this. Obviously, if I knew all that was there, I would have just ran it all the way over as one piece. But, you know, at the end of the day, it is what it is. I didn't know. So we'll go ahead and move on with fitting this radius right here. And then we'll come back and I'll show you guys what I'm going to do to get this radius all correct through here. So shouldn't be too bad, but it's gonna work out. Should look nice. I'm just taking my time and welding real slow, as you can tell. Light heat, still making sure I got good penetration, because I'm leaving a little bit of gap between the panels, and I'm separating all my welds and just really taking my time, so that way we don't introduce any heat. So, or, you know, as least as we can. So anyway, we'll check back in once I start getting this kind of formed in, and then we'll go over this when I get there. All right, sorry for the noise, guys. Heater's running, but I got this thing all in place. Turned out really good. Radius turned out really nice. Nothing's warped. We got the same curvature that we need. Did a little hammer and dollying to match up the Nomad lower here. Now what we are doing is I'm going to be taking this and using this as a gauge to recreate this section right here. So it shouldn't be too bad. And this ought to be fairly easy as well. So I'm going to kind of get started on whichever spot first. Probably do this top one first, and then move on to this lower corner and get that edge kind of pulled in how it should be. Get back with you. I'm gonna get this wheel pulled off and get the heck out of my way, because I need to wrap back around here a little bit, and the tire's in the way, but we'll show you where I'm at. As you can tell, there's a little ding right here and a little ding right here. That's just right out of the factory, because I haven't even touched this area yet. But as you can tell, getting that radius close. Just got to get in here and work this area, but the tire's in the way. So we'll go ahead and get that off and get back with you. All right, we now have us a Nomad lower quarter. Not fully finished yet, being that I haven't finished out welding any of that. And I'm gonna shape this to round that out just a hair more to match that, but pretty dang close. But now we're ready to go through and start spotting all this stuff in and finish her out. Pretty stoked with it. So there we go. Gonna go ahead and finish weld this thing out and smooth those welds out, and we'll see our finished product. All right, guys, as you saw in the time lapse, I was going through and smoothing out all the welds. I didn't want to get too crazy because the more you grind away, the less strength you have. And I'm okay with doing a little bit of a skim coat, obviously, because we're going to be priming and blending paint down in there anyway. But here's the finished result. So really happy with this. This is why I love blending welds on radiuses, because you can hardly tell anything was there. That come out pretty nice. Kept with the radius of the lower quarter pretty well. And the camera kind of amplifies this stuff, but there's hardly anything there. So just a very light skim coat will take care of this, which the panel was dented right from the factory anyway. So turned out pretty good. I'm happy with it. Nice and solid. And then this will be tweaked up and pushed where it needs to when the floor goes in it, obviously, but radius matches up really well. Pretty stoked. So I think we're gonna call it done for the week. So I think the next video after this one, we'll be addressing this right here. So that ought to be very interesting. So anyway, I think that's going to do it for this one. Hope you guys enjoyed seeing that. I'm pretty happy with how that turned out, taking something that wasn't supposed to be for a Nomad and making it work. So that's the fun of doing this kind of stuff. But anyway, that's going to do it for this one. So if you're not subscribed already, do so. Like the video and let me know down in the comment section what you guys think of this project so far. And you know, the more you subscribe and like and all that, it really helps the channel out, helps us grow, so we can keep working on old rusty pieces of junk like this. So anyway, we'll see you guys in the next one. So it's gonna be it. We're out.